And Eric, you will let me know at the proper time of anyone who else is on from the community and the public, and if there's any questions.
I will do that. Yes, at the end when you address questions, I will check and I will respond to you. Yes.
I thank you, sir.
Yep, and we are unmuted and going live now, just so everybody knows. As soon as the other board members join, we can begin.
Okay, as soon as they're all in, I'm trying to watch and I can't tell for sure who is not in, but let me know when they are.
Sure, I believe we're waiting on Mr. Green and Mr. Keegan.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Keegan.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Hello, Aiden. Hello, Madison. How are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
Hello. I'm all right.
It's good to hear your voices.
Good to hear yours too.
Thank you. Mr. Fedorcha, maybe we'll wait one more minute for Mr. Green.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I'm just looking at the names. I don't see them coming in.
Mr. Hill, could you possibly email Mr. Green to see if he needs any sort of assistance getting into the meeting this evening?
Yes, I will do that right now.
Thank you. And then Mr. Fedorcha, when you're ready to open a meeting, we are ready.
Okay, I'm going to do that then. Again, I would like to call the Northern Lehigh School Board meeting to order for Monday, June 8th. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be posted on the NLSD Media YouTube channel. All votes this evening will be roll call votes. Reminding of the board members to please state your name before you make a motion so that it can be properly identified by the secretary. We shall now proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. Mr. Disler?
Mr. Hitchler here.
Mr. Green?
I guess we're
Ms. Heckman?
Here.
Ms. Husak? Here. Mr. Keegan?
Here.
Mr. Kern?
Here.
Ms. Culp?
Here.
Ms. Martineau?
Here.
Mr. Fedorcha?
here.
Mr. Green?
Eric, do we know anything yet?
If you're looking for Mr. Green, he's here.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Do you have a full quorum?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much. You have the minutes of the preceding meeting of May 11th. Do I have a motion to approve?
Michelle Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Gail Husak, second.
Any questions or concerns or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call, Mr. Fedorcha.
That's right. And I just got done saying that, didn't I? Please. I'll get it. Anyway, roll call, Madam Secretary. Sorry.
Mr. Disler?
Mr. Disler, here. Yes.
Mr. Green?
It looked like he lost connection again.
Okay, go on.
Thank you. Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
I was going to try again, but I think he left again.
Yes.
We do
Okay.
have a motion pass, though.
Thank you. Moving on to special board reports. Mrs. Huzak.
Yes, thank you. For the Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, we are still continuing to do our Zoom meetings, just like we are doing here at the district. We're still reviewing the plans for what the summer sessions look like. We're reviewing and working with all the districts, including Northern Lehigh, on a return to work.
Why?
See what it says there. On a return to
Now it
work
looks like it.
plan.
I think I
There
can
is
talk, but I can't hear.
Well, you're not muted, but it's.
Excuse me one second, Miss
There we
Husak. Mr. Green, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Hold on.
Can you hear us, Mr. Green?
Mr. Green? I think he went off again.
Yep, and he just muted himself.
Okay. Okay. Continue, Ms. Huzak, please.
So the IU board is, as well as the intermediate unit, they are working on a task force for the return to work, or yeah, that's what I'm doing. Return to school plans coming up. So Northern Lehigh will be attending that as well. I'm sure Mr. Link will touch base a little bit on that, but we are heading that through the IU. Also, one of the great numbers that we're able to provide is that throughout the COVID timeframe, the Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit and their teachers and staff had reached 95% of the families in their group, which is approximately about 4,000 students. Of those, 600 of them are school age. So there's a whole shift of different levels of connection that was had if they had done it via Zoom meetings, if they were doing it in different kinds of teacher trackings and emails in Zoom, and being creative on how to engage those students that really need a little bit more help staying connected in the learning plan. So a lot of family learning situations happened as well. How do we help the families who are not used to having those students in the home every day, all the time, 24 hours a day, and continuing to build that education of those students. So kudos to our staff here at Northern Lehigh who helped with that, as well as to the IU who's helping and assisting with that. So that's really all I have today. I just want to say thank you to the teachers as we move forward through some really difficult times, and even going through summer, which some of our students were looking for that summer learning program that may not be able to be had in person, just like the end of our school year. Again, wish Madison a great year. Sorry it ended the way that it did for you. Wish you luck in college. But that's all I have tonight, Mr. Fedorcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Huzak? Okay. Moving on. LCTI. We are going to be doing our senior awards on a virtual setting. That'll be coming up. We have approximately 850 some students that are leaving us this year, and we're going to be doing that virtually. We are also preparing to open school as best we can along with all the districts. One of the things that we're also looking at is how we open, number one, our adult programs as well as then our high school, because our adult programs can open in a different phase than our high school. So we're looking at that. And we also hired a new adult education director. Our director is retiring and going to Florida. And we also hired a new HR person. That's all I have. Thank you. And we'll move on to Mrs. Heckman with legislative.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha. So Pennsylvania has a new state budget, which will become effective on July 1st. Most agencies are only funded for 5 months, I believe, through November. However, education, it includes full year funding for education with no cuts for schools. So that is good news that it was for full year and not an interim. PDE issued school reopening guidelines. They're preliminary depending on if a county is in the yellow or green phase of reopening. I'm not going to get into the hairy details of what those look like now because, as we know, things have been changing often and sometimes drastically. So schools that want to reopen have to develop a health and safety plan that must be approved by the school board, which is something that Northern High is obviously actively working on. That has to be submitted to PDE and then posted on the district website. The most recent legislative update said that they're going to issue additional guidance for that later this month, which outlines steps for school reopenings, which, obviously everyone on this call will be monitoring very closely. But at this time, things are still in flux, but good news that we are getting guidance from PDE and that the budget has actually been passed. The other thing that I want to mention is that over 250 school boards have adopted a resolution to a charter funding resolution we also did this, I think it was at our last board meeting or possibly the one before that, for charter school reform. So over 250 school boards have done that, and the number is growing because, as we know, charter school reform is an incredibly large portion of our budget and the budgets of districts all over Pennsylvania. So that's the end of my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Heckman. Are there any questions for Mrs. Heckman? Okay, moving on. Mr. Green, before I let you speak on behalf of L-Tri-C, we kind of lost you. Do I have a yes vote for the approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
My apologies. I
L-Tri-C.
know you could see me, but I couldn't hear you. I didn't have any audio, and I'm not sure why, but I'm back. So.
Okay, L-Tri-C. No, stay on.
Oh, yeah. No major report. Obviously, we're struggling through the scenario. We're looking at opening in fall. There's going to be a lot of remote learning. Some classes, like computer classes, etc., might have to be in-house. But, there's still a lot of questions to be answered, just like high school. So attendance in summer was up. Fall is down so far. So we'll see what happens.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Green? Seeing none? Okay. You have the committee reports and the meetings reports minutes in your packet, and we shall move on then to our student reports. Miss Huffman, and I want to echo to you that we wish you the best. This is unique that this is the way we're going to celebrate your final board meeting, but we want to thank you for being a member of our board and hope that your future will be very, very bright. With that said,
thank you so much.
I will move over to you.
All right. Aiden, I believe you are going first today.
Sure, sounds good. So as we conclude this very strange school year, I can't help but look forward to next year, which will be my senior year. I think I speak for all of us when I say I hope that our lives will be able to return to normal, and major high school events such as homecoming and the blood drives and prom will all be able to be held as normal. As a member of student council, we've already started to prepare for those events to make sure that they are safe for everyone in the school. For instance, for our homecoming pep rally, usually what we do is we kind of squish all the students on one side of the gymnasium, and then put the athletes on the other side. But we're looking for next year to possibly spread the students out to all sides of the gymnasium and then put the athletes in the middle for the safety of everyone. We've also started to plan for our blood drives to start advertising those. We'll put in initiatives to make sure that everyone who goes to donate blood will be safe. And we've already set our dates, with the first date being on Friday, October 16th. So if that's something interesting that you're interested in, I would recommend marking your calendar so you can be ready. That concludes my report for what I have tonight, but I would like to wish everyone a very happy and safe summer. Thank you.
Same to you.
You as well, Aiden.
Ms. Huffman?
Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. I would first like to start out by thanking you all for this opportunity. Being able to be a student school board representative for the last 2 years has really enlightened me to what the school board does for us. Before this, I of course knew that they made decisions for the school, but now I can appreciate the time and effort that goes into each one of those decisions, as I have seen the budget that stretches out over several years into the future. It has kept me engaged in everything that is happening within the district, not just at the high school level. I have been very appreciative of the support from everyone and enjoyed talking with staff before and after meetings and catching up with old teachers. It has meant so much to me that Mrs. Jones suggested that I should apply for this position, and I could prove myself as a responsible student. I believe that being a student school board representative, on top of everything else that I'm involved with, is why I got a full tuition scholarship, leadership scholarship at DeSales University, Mr. Link's college of choice, I believe. DeSales is my dream school, and it is because of this position that I get the chance to go to said school. I will be majoring in TV, film, and minoring in digital media to pursue a career in editing and maybe even animation if I get good enough at it. Northern Link High has been such an exciting journey for me, and I'm excited to see what journeys lay ahead of me. I would again like to thank everyone for this opportunity and wish you all the best. I hope to see you sometime in the future.
Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay well, and keep us posted on your future. And I will then let any other board member who would like to make any comments say them now.
Look, Madison.
Congratulations, Madison. Good luck.
Thank you.
We are all supporting you, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future, and come back and visit us.
Of course, homecoming. That's what that's for, right?
Also, then Madison, look in the chat box area that's up in the upper there.
Yes,
there are
I do
comments coming
see.
into you also.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, and anyone else? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the solicitor's report. Mr. Straw.
I don't really have a report for today. It's more of just an FYI. Wanted to let the board and the administration know that as of today, our office is, I should say, semi-open. So I will be in the office essentially every day now, more able to give you guys some good advice when needed, as opposed to working from home, trying to wrangle 3 kids. Not really a conducive work environment. So just wanted to let you guys know that we do have some people in the office. There's obviously some of us still working from home, but we're semi-open and seeing people by appointment at this time. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving on to our assistant superintendent's report, Dr. Stoker.
Thank you, Mr. Dorcha. I have 2 short announcements this evening. One is the ESSER grant, that's the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. The district is receiving $329,372 as part of that, and $4,796 of that will go to our non-public schools, which are encompassed in our district. We are currently, as an administrative team, looking at how we want to spend those monies, and especially in light of the requirements that the Pennsylvania Department of Education has put out and safety measures for coming back to school, and how we can best spend those monies. Once we have decided what our course of action, we'll be submitting that grant. And then as soon as they get that, they look at that, and there's a quick turnaround period, my understanding is. So we should be receiving those monies pretty soon after we submit that grant. Additionally, on the agenda this evening are the handbooks for the elementary, the middle school, and the high school. Just a reminder that in looking at those and hopefully approving those this evening, that the links right now do not connect because we are looking to transition our web page to a new web page. So we'd be approving that this evening with the understanding that as soon as we're looking to come back in August, that the principals would make those links active again to the new web page. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. And those were the same handbooks that were presented at the Education Committee.
Correct. And they've been updated with regard to the changes that were recommended.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Dr. Stoker? Okay, moving on to our business managers report, Ms. Molitoris and Mrs. Franz.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Link is going to share the PowerPoint presentation that we did at the Finance Committee meeting. We're going to go over that again here this evening so everybody is aware of where we stand with the budget. Although our budget is not on the board agenda for approval this evening, it will be on our special board meeting on June 22nd.
Are you able to see that, Mrs. Molitoris?
Yes, it's actually pretty small for me, but let me make my screen bigger and then I'm good. Okay, I'm good. So originally, this is the administrative recommendations from the May 20th or the May 2020 board agenda. We had originally presented a budget with a 3.5% tax increase to generate about $455,000 in additional revenue. The board considerations was, the other board consideration was the legislation or the board's choosing to increase the discount period for taxpayers to pay their discount for a longer period of time, so into the month of September, and then totally do away with delinquent tax collections, which would give you till the end of December to pay your tax bill at base. There is still a bill sitting out in Harrisburg to get that pushed through. It has not come through yet, but PASBO is consistently staying on top of that, and they will let us know as soon as that measure goes through. If it is not passed by the time that our board agenda is passed, we can choose to do this if we decide to, or we can wait for legislation to come through to say that we have to do it. But that is if the legislation says we have to do it, that's not at our choice. We will have to do it. And then the discussion at one of our recent PASBO was if they end up passing the budget, your school districts, and they do not pass this, and then the school board doesn't pass it, but later the state does come through with this and say that we all have to do it. They were talking about how they would, if the tax bills are already printed, how to get that notice out to taxpayers that they now would have an extended period of time. So there was ideas tossed around like postcards, possibly just putting a notice in the newspaper. So if we come into that realm and need to deal with that, we can discuss that later of how we want to handle that situation. We continue to obviously renegotiate that Brandywine contract. We actually thought we were pretty close today. There are still some things that need to be tweaked yet. So our hopes is still to go back to him and have something on the June 22nd board meeting to approve his contract. And again, we were going to continue to look at opportunities for funding with CARES, and now we also have the PCCD grant that came through. And at that point in time, we were utilizing $2.487 million in fund balance, but that did have that $455,000 increase in tax built into it. So now as we go forward and look at this presentation, we're going to kind of take that off the plate and look at what that fund balance we use of fund balance without that tax increase, which would be over $2.9 million. So you'll see that on an upcoming slide. Okay, Matt. So this is the updated funding and revenues that we've learned since May of 20. So we did talk at a finance committee meeting about bond refinancing, which would take $2 million out of our payment next year and $2 million out of the 21-22 school year. The education fund balance, education budget balance, excuse me, The education budget amount that the school district will receive, as Mrs. Heckman stated, is going to be equal next year to what we received this year. The original budget in May was built with the BEF at $7 million, little over $7 million. That hasn't decreased by a whole $21. And the SEF, when I originally built the budget, the money I hadn't ran and re-looked at it ran through the formula. So actually I was able to increase our special ed funding by $13,000 because you get an allotment of money every year, but at the end of the school year and into next year, they run it through that SEF, that special ed funding formula, and then you get it based on that formula, and we end up with another $13,000 this year. So we actually are getting $13,000 more in this year. That $13,000 will carry over into the 2021 and is our new number, the 1.297 million. And then we also talked at the finance committee meeting about the potential of staff reductions. We have a secondary social studies position that we felt we could do without based on enrollments and how the course loads of classes at the high school are loading, as is the same situation with the music position at the secondary level as well. The way they're loading at the high school level allowed us to reduce our potential staff due to retirements and attrition. We are not furloughing anybody. It's due to attrition and staff retirements. So we could reduce our expenditure budget on the side by staff by $246,000. Any questions on that, or I can keep going? All right, the next page is our updated funds revenue information continued. So as Dr. Stoker stated, we do have PCC grant one-time monies, $227,000. That includes $35,000 from May. So in May, I built the budget because every year around December or so, we apply for the PCC grant. We get about $35,000 from that grant every year. Well, when they pumped money into from the CARES money and stuff into the PCCD grant at the state level, they said that we would not be seeing that additional money. So I had already built the $35,000 into the budget. So this 227 is all inclusive of that 35 that was originally in the budget, plus now the new 192 that they're giving us gives us the 227,000. And then we have that one-time CARES money that comes from the federal government, as Dr. Stoker talked about. That's $329,000 we're receiving. $4,700 of that has to go to non-publics. That's based on our Title I allocation amount that we must give them that amount of money. The NLSD share then is $324,000. The CARES money is the only money that we have to give non-public funds to. The PCCD grant, we do not. There is a pot of money out there for the non-pubs and them to apply for on their own to get PCCD grant money. And then last again is that transportation subsidy. As I said, the state subsidy, we would stand to lose in this year, $300,000, this upcoming year, 2021 school year, subsidy reimbursement of $300,000 if we do not renegotiate our contract with Brandywine. So basically, if we stay status quo to the end of the year, paying exactly the amount of bus runs that we're running on our last day of school, which would have been March 12th, 2020, that we transported the students, we would have paid $500,663. We are in the process of renegotiating with Brandywine. I think we've pretty much settled on the 60% of that cost, which then there's just some little bit of language there we're still tweaking around, but we would actually only be paying him $279,000 and change till the end of the school year to satisfy that agreement. And then I can say next year, we transported our students for 180 days and we're going to receive that $300,000 in subsidy next year. Any questions? All right, Matt, I'm going to turn the next slide over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Molitores. So we've mentioned several times this evening the additional revenue through the CARES funding and the PCCD funding, knowing that we can use that to purchase items or services directly related to the impact of COVID-19. The list that you see in front of you are some of the items that we're considering, everything from supporting online teaching and learning, to additional food service department packing and serving containers, to personal protective equipment supplies, to partitions for smaller rooms and offices to help separate people. We cannot yet definitively say which items we're going to fully recommend to the board. Friday afternoon, the state just released their template for the health and safety reopening plan, which we are currently working through internally, with our administrative team, but also in conjunction with the CLIU task force, which has been formed, the regional task force for reopening schools that Mrs. Husak mentioned in her board report. So we know that we're going to move to dedicate some of those monies to items like these. We just don't know exactly which items yet, or if there are other ones that we still may want to consider. Once we know that, we will share that information with the school board. It'll become part of our plan that we take to the board for approval and then forward to the state. But this is some of the internal discussions that we're having right now, just like every other school district around the state, now that we know exactly how much money each district is receiving. Any questions on the CARES or PCCD possibilities? Okay, I will add that related to the information that was just released to the state by us on Friday, the template, and then I believe on Tuesday they released the general guidelines. We have also sent out our parent and guardian survey, which is another piece of important information that we're considering as we build our reopening plan. And by Wednesday, hopefully tomorrow, but definitely by Wednesday, we will be releasing a survey to our staff so we can also consider their input as to what they feel is most needed for the fall. Okay, so now Mrs. Molitor is going to walk us through the revised funding and revenue information, revised from the first time the proposed final budget was passed in May. Mrs. Molitor?
Thank you, Mr. Link. So when we presented the budget back in May, as I stated, we were at $2.49 million short in fund balance, but that included that $455,000 worth of tax revenue. So what we've done, as I said before, we've taken that off the table and we're actually looking at exactly what the budget is shortfall minus any kind of tax increase at this point in time. So right now, that May, then we would have been 2.94 million short. We have that additional CARES money that is coming in, which we need to build expenditures into our budget to cover those. That's $324,000. The PCCD expenditures, again, that's new money coming into our budget that we need to also budget expenditures for. So that's $227,000. Giving us a total shortfall in the June presentation that we did to the Finance Committee meeting of 3.494, so just shy of $3.5 million short. So when we look at the increase then of our revenues, which is going to be a minus to our shortfall, making our shortfall less, we received $12,981 more in revenue this coming school year for BEF and SEF. We have that CARES money that we're getting in revenue. Again, that's going to be offset by those expenditures that we added above for $324,000. The PCCD grant money that we have coming in is only $192 because in May I had that $35,000 already in the budget. So if you add that 35 and the 192, you're going to come up with that $227,000 above that I have built in with expenditures. If we're able to negotiate that transportation contract, we're going to realize $300,000 more in revenues in the 2021 school year for bus transportation subsidy, which currently I do not have that in the budget. Staff reductions of those 2 staff members that we will not be filling due to attrition. That was $246,000. And then again, that bond refinancing, if the board so chooses to do that $2 million bond refinancing next year, that takes our updated budget shortfall down to $417,000. So coupled that with we've taken what was a $2.4 million shortage in our budget, because we're going to do that bond refinancing, we've had some staff reductions, and that transportation subsidy, we're down to $417,000 short in our budget. Any questions on that slide? Okay, go ahead, Matt. Mr. Link.
Thank you. So some considerations for the school board, and this started at the finance committee meeting last Wednesday, is does the board have an interest in refinancing the bond issues? And at that time, the finance committee and the administration supported this recommendation. Is the board in favor of the renegotiated Brandywine transportation contract? The finance committee and administration also supported that, knowing that we're looking to bring that contract to the June 22nd meeting for approval. Does the board want to eliminate 2 positions through attrition? The finance committee and administration supported that. So I'll let the full board continue those conversations if they want to reopen any of those to consideration, but also to continue the conversation and have an open discussion about what was approved in May, the 3.5% tax increase. Some additional information to share with you concerning the tax increase is that if you were to step down incrementally from the 3.5%, this slide here shows you how much revenue would be generated at 3.25, 3%, 2.75, and so on, again, with the $417,000 plus shortfall highlighted in red at the top. So that's just some additional information to help you make your final decision on June 22nd. To break it down by county, Mrs. Molitoris has shown here that in Lehigh County, last year, a median assessed valued home at $149,000, the tax rate or the tax payment was $3,354.57. This year, if the tax rate was held at 3.5% increase, that would be an additional $137.16 a year. And if you move over to the far right, you see what that breaks down per month, per week, and per day. And then the overall annual payment drops down there in alignment as the percentage increase occurs. So 3.25% drops the annual payment to $128 and so on. It follows the same pattern down in Northampton County. Same information, same setup on that part of the slide as well. But because of the state tax equalization board, you'll see that because we're a dual county district, the tax rates are different. So last year, a $45,850 median assessed home, the tax paid was a little over $3,000. At a 3.5% for the 2021 budget year, the tax increase would be $20.30, and then broken down by month, by week, and day to the far right. If you drop below 3%, when you get to Northampton County and you go down to 2.75%, you'll actually see that they're not going to be paying a tax increase from there on, again, because of the equalization rate. So I guess the thing to point out here is, even if the board were just to, by chance, say, go down to a 0% tax increase, residents in Lehigh County, because of the equalization board, would still be paying some tax increase. Now that may switch the following year when things balance out like they do every, kind of goes back and forth year to year. Again, so additional information for you to consider. I'm going to walk us back up to the board consideration slide and to kind of open it up for discussion there for school board members, knowing that we're not looking for a final motion to approve any of this evening.
I have a question regarding the bond issue, regarding the refinance of bonds. What is the end date then for whatever the payments are on those bonds? Like, how does it change the bond repayment timeline?
Mrs. Heckman will be adding 1 year. Our final year in 2028-29, I believe, in the current situation where it is, we're only paying about $500,000 that year. We will actually increase that to a little over, probably right around $3 million, because we're moving $2 million down to there, and then we're going to extend it 1 more year. So it would end in the 29-30 school year, I believe it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Mrs.
What's the-
Mollis, this is Gail.
Sure.
Just a quick question. I thought during the finance meeting, there was discussion about having to have some of that money of the bond refinancing be paid back in 2 or 3 years, not, what did you say, 13 years?
No. These two will get moved to the end of the process. So it will still be, it's a little over a 10-year bond yet we would pay on. I think, like I said, I know we're done in 28-29. Some of this money will be paid out in 28-29. The final will be paid in 29-30.
So we have no additional in the next.
No, we have payments all the way through. Those are the 2018 bonds, because those are not callable and those are not refinanceable right now. The only ones that are the 12 and 15, and they're the two that we're playing with, just basically taking the expenditures out of the next 2 school years and moving them at the end of our debt service payments.
So no matter if we would do the bond refinancing or not, we still have bond payments that we will need to pay in the realm of $2 million in, say, 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Next year it would be probably somewhere around $700,000-800,000. The year after that, the same, and then every year after that, it goes up to a little over $3 million every year after that. Correct.
Okay, so we have to think fiscally responsible from now through whenever, that whatever we choose to do today can affect those numbers and what that outcome is as we move along. So I think we have to think that fiscally responsibly as the board, as a consideration for everything. A lot going on now, but what's going to happen? There's going to be something new coming, and we have to prepare the district for education purposes down the road too. So I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So thank you for the clarification.
You're very correct in your statement, Mrs. Susak. And I will tell you that in 2023, those 18 bonds do come callable at that point in time. So if we would need to look at refinancing again at that point in time, we could. But it is that 22-23 school year where nothing will be recallable, and we will have a $3 million bond payment we're going to need to make that year. Okay.
I have a question. What is the current rate?
I do not have, it's a little over 2%, I know, but I don't know exactly what it is, Bob.
Okay, and aren't the rates at historic lows now?
Yes, they are currently at historic lows.
So we can keep looking for low rates throughout the next few years and take advantage of them whenever possible. Is that correct?
Well, the problem is we don't have anything else that's callable. Once we do these, there's nothing else callable then until the 22-23 school year. So for the next 3 years, we're locked in, which means when we get to that 22-23 school year where we have $3 million available that we have to pay, there's nothing callable during that year.
So we're only talking about 2 years where we're a little stressed a little.
Correct.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Anybody else?
I don't have a question about the presentation now, but has everybody been reading the letters?
Of course.
I got one letter from an individual sent to my house that was appreciative of us rethinking about what taxpayers are up to and what they're being faced with. And the individual was very elegant in her description of how important it is for us as the watchdogs for our finances and the impact on our local taxpayers. And I just want to make sure that we all have been paying attention to some of the feedback we've been getting. And I know, Gary, you did respond to a group of them, and appreciate that, but we need to be ever conscious of paying attention to that public. I worry about them a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This is Michelle. I just wanted to say thanks to Sherry. She has given us this presentation at the finance meeting the other day, and it was very illuminating. I appreciate all the hard work that she's done to help us sort of get our heads around the intricacies of the refi and all of this, and the questions she answered from Mr. Green. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you too. It's amazing to see the difference in the numbers in 1 month. And it has started to come together for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I can, just to move this along a little bit, because we still have the bond issue and we also have the reconsideration of the taxes. So let me get the two in the middle out of the way. Is there anyone on the board objecting to those two motions in the middle? And they're not motions for today. They're really consideration for the budget. Is that right, Sherry?
Correct.
Is there any problem with either of those that we could get rid of those now?
This is Robin Disler.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Now, with those gone, we're still up then to discussion. Number one on the bond issue, which will have an impact definitely in the upcoming years. And we certainly don't know where our budgets will be in the upcoming years. There's predictions that next year may be even worse than this year sometimes, but we're dealing with this year. So we have two issues that we need to discuss now and prepare for the 22nd meeting. And that is, does the board want to refinance? And does the board want to reconsider the tax? I will leave that open to discussion now.
I'll chime in. I think we should be open to all four items. I think it's important for us as a board to consider all of them and be accountable to our constituents and taxpayers, and at the same time provide quality education. And that's what we're trying to do here. So yes, I am in support of all four items.
No. Okay. Anyone else? Because we need to make a decision. Number one, we need to decision on the refinance for sure. And then we're going to need to settle something today as far as the reconsideration of the 3.5, so that we can have a budget to present on the 22nd. So anyway.
Gary, this is Bob Kern. I'd like to chime in if I may.
Absolutely.
I too am in favor of, looking at refinancing the bond issues, but also, looking at the crystal ball, we're going to have to prepare for what will be coming if we do that. It's not free money. That's the bottom line. All we're doing is pushing our debt back, and it's going to have to be repaid at some point. My concern is as we go through the next several years, and I'm definitely conscious of our taxpayers, I being one of them. But we also need to make sure that we have the revenue to continue our educational programs as well. I did read a lot of the comments, and I do appreciate the feedback from the community. Obviously, we're in a position that, is affecting their finances, and I understand that. But at the same time, I really would like to hear from the parents that have students in our school districts, because most of the people that have reached out to me are people who do not have children in the school district. And obviously they don't have a vested interest as those parents who do. I have 3 grandchildren in this school district. I do not want to see a reduction in any of their educational opportunities. So looking at the big picture, definitely I'm in favor of reducing that tax increase. I think if we do refinance the bond issues, We might have a little play money for the next several years, but we need to keep that crystal ball in the picture that it's not free, and it's for now, and it's going to come back to bite us a little bit later. So with that, also understanding that we have this wonderful thing called the index, and if we go zero tax increase this year, that means the index is not raised next year, or we lose that money forever. And if we're trying to fund the school district for educational opportunities, I think that's where we need to think as well. So yes, I'm in favor of both. And as I said at the finance committee meeting, I being on the committee, my heart tells me one thing, but my crystal ball, my mind tells me another. So I'm still in a quandary here, but I would support all four.
Anyone else?
Mr. Fedorcha, this is Mrs. Martineau. I did want to say I know I voiced it during the finance committee meeting, and I thank you for allowing me to do so. But regarding the third, eliminating 2 positions through attrition, I did want to point out that the board was discussing accepting this loss of a music instructor at the secondary at the high school level, and that we in no way want this to look like we are not supporting the music program at the school. It's just there's currently not interest in the courses to support it, and that we hope in the future that this would not be a necessary item somewhere down the line.
Thank you. I think, though, that we have talked about that, and certainly I know Mr. Link has said, if things change, especially with our numbers or whatever else, both numbers as far as students and numbers as far as if we could afford to do so, we are certainly looking at that down. And I think from his office down, including the board members here, that we are saying that, and we certainly want to put that out, that in no way this is an end result.
Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Mr. Fedorcha, this is Gail. I'm kind of agreeing with Mr. Kern and Mr. Keegan all at the same time here, which is a little bit of struggle for me, where I'm a past student. I have students in the district, and I obviously want the students to get the best education that they can. And listening to what Mrs. Molitaris had pointed out in some of the current acts that are out there of allowing taxes to have a reduction, a discount period that's extended, as well as the end date not having any fault at the end if they wait till December to pay, that's going to affect our budget also. So we're not taking some of those numbers into consideration. So for as much as I want our education to be very supportive, and we want to put the best foot forward for the education, and at no way do I want to fault or lose sight in that education we want to provide. I still think as a board, we have to think fiscally responsible, not just for today, but for the future of our district and what that looks like. And currently what other districts are going through, we don't necessarily want to be in that same situation either. So I am in favor of all 4 of those items, including looking and reconsidering what that number of a tax increase is. I think it's important that we do that and do justification and clarity and support for our community, because I believe that's truly important. Our community is who we are and what we make about it. But at the end of the day, it still has to come down to the support and education of our students. And that's what I'm struggling with myself. And in my heart, I want one thing, and I agree with you, Mr. Kern. That crystal ball is telling me something different. And man, if I could learn from what we did back in 1999, all those things, it might help. But I really think we have to be open and thoughtful to the full picture and not just what's happening today. Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mrs. Huzaka, of course. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Bob Keegan. Sherry, what would we lose if we don't charge penalties? I know a lot of districts are doing the same thing, and in my experience in some of the other districts, I've heard 30 to 40,000. What would our loss be?
If we extend our penalty period and, or I'm sorry, if we extend our discount period, which would give, and I looked at the number of people that pay in September every year and said these now people would receive a discount. And then I looked at everybody in November and December that would have paid and we would have received penalty. We're looking at $79,000 or $73,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to make a quick comment, and I agree with Mrs. Martinez that no one wants to cut the music program or any other program, but welcome aboard. You're in a position right now, guys, where you've got some really tough decisions to make here. We haven't had those in the last couple of years, and today it's on our doorstep. Unfortunately, you can't run a music program and pay a full-time teacher, and I don't know if you're aware of this, if their classes have 1 and 2 students in. It's just something we can't afford to do. You know, this is not a big private school where we get tuition and things like that. So we can't afford to do that. Regarding spreading the costs out, if you read my questions to Sherry, which she answered, and I was not aware of that 2-year scenario. I was looking at the same thing. Could we phase this in somehow with various numbers arbitrarily along the way? And the answer, unfortunately, is no, they won't allow you to do that. So shame on us, it didn't work that way. The question I want to ask Sherry or Ron at this point is, have we spent any of the fund balance in this year's budget?
Yes, I'm figuring we're probably going to be over $1 million short in this year's fund balance. Correct.
Okay, because I'm looking at the last sheet, the last budget progress report, and it shows fund balance budgeted $2,757,000, spent nothing. So it looks like as of whenever this was prepared, we haven't touched the fund balance at this point in time. And
right.
Is that correct? I'm not
correct.
saying in the future, but as of today, we have not touched that fund balance.
Right, but you need to take into consideration all those payrolls over the summer that are not accounted for yet or anything. So that's all going to be what plays a role in that.
I understand that. And in your estimation, we'll spend what, $1 million of it? Or
yeah, I'll think it between $1 million and $1.2 million. Yep.
Okay. So then there's roughly what, $1.5 million left over? Is that a correct number, Sherry? Roughly $1.5 million in fund balance.
What we originally had budgeted last year. Yes, I think we were going to use 2.7. So yes, correct.
So there'll be 1.5 that we won't spend.
Correct.
That gives me a pretty good comfort level, to be honest with you, and is something that says we were going to take another $2 million out of the budget or out of fund balance this year, and we're not going to have to do that. So that's $2 million that'll stay. We're not going to have to take $2 million out next year. That's $4 million will stay. So if 3 years from now we have to hit the fund balance, we've got an extra $4 million there that we weren't counting on. Plus, it looks like we'll have an extra $1 million out of this year. That's $5 million. And with that as a background, I guess I'm willing to say, yeah, I want to refund the bonds, and we can tackle that in 2 years because we just got an extra $5 million, which certainly should help us. There's also the possibility of refunding the other bond issue if we decide to go in that direction. I don't think we'll save as much as we're saving here, but there are some other stopgaps there. So we were already willing to take $2 million out of the fund balance this year. We're not going to have to do that. So if we have to do that in 2 years from now to make up for it, what's the difference? We're ahead for 2 years. Yes, we're going to pay more in the long run, but you know, it's not a tough number. You know, you take $4 million for 10 years at 2.5%, and that comes out to $1 million. So that's the cost of doing business. And so I guess I'm willing to do that and look toward the future. I'm willing to cut that out and probably look at an extremely lower tax increase than we had. I understand the ramifications of the index, and that can get us in trouble. But we should then nevertheless have a pretty healthy fund balance. for a school district that has a $35 million budget, you know, we should have pretty good fund balance. So I think we'll be okay in 2 years. I'm not panicking. And until I work through some of the numbers I'm not anymore. So that's my feeling.
This is Mrs. Martineau, Mr. Fedorcha. I just wanted to agree with what Mr. Green is saying. If that is in fact how this is panning out, I too, you know, fully support the bond refi and reconsidering the tax increase. If in fact these numbers are what we're going to end up with.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is Robin Disler. Just want to make as well. Was on a hard time too, as far as making a decision of which way to go. Was primarily against the refinancing of the bonds. But, we all know that we have no idea what our financial situation is going to be like, and maybe even next year or 2 years from now. And as far as tax increase, maybe we can look at lowering that to make it even, 3%. But you know, that's something we'll have to think about. So I'm in favor of all four of those things to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Disler. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Gary, I didn't hear Robin's comments. He was breaking up on my phone.
Yeah, he was breaking up on all of them too.
Oh.
I'm going to type a message in the chat to him to ask him if he could reiterate that in the chat box.
Okay, or
I was going to suggest that.
Speaking closer to the mic or something. I don't know what he needs to do, but I didn't hear his comments. And
I don't know. Robin, I don't know if it's your microphone or whatever else that's the problem, but it was broken up. So can you type into the chat?
Yes, I will see what I can do. All right, thanks.
Okay. So in the meantime, do I have anyone else with comments?
Mr. Fedorcha, there is a question on the YouTube channel coming in that has to do with the topic. Would you like to open that question up now or save it for public comment at the end?
There's someone who wants to comment on the budget.
Yeah, it's a comment and a question, I believe. And if you want to entertain it now, Mr. Eric Hill can read it off to you.
I will. I don't want a lot of information right now to be coming in, but I will if there's only one. Yes, let it come in, please.
Okay, Mr. Hill, please present the question.
Okay, yes, it was a comment and a question from Myra A. The question is the possible increase in taxes, 3.5%. It's not clear to me how that will be used to improve education in the school district. Is this only to cover the deficit, or will that be used for better programs across the district and or more options for our students? As a taxpayer, I want to see improvement in education and program offering.
Certainly any tax increase that we do is going to go for the betterment of the school district and the students, because it will be helping to, just like all these considerations, is to pay our bills and to make sure that we have a quality education. So if that's my opinion, and I don't know if anyone else has any different than that.
I would say the same, Mr. Fedorcha. It is to pay our current expenditures and actually our expenditures for the upcoming school year. But really all of our expenditures go towards two things. Cost of employees, all the associated cost of employees, and educational programs. So the answer is kind of yes to both options.
Yes.
And I'll ask Mrs. Molatoris or Mrs. France from the business office to weigh in as well.
And I'm in agreement. It's everything that we do, every time we do a tax increase, it is for the betterment of the school district and what is happening here. It's to pay our salaries. It's, you know, we are not making budget, and we're not making budget because of the fact that we're adding a whole bunch of new stuff. Although since I want to say in the last 2 years, we have added a lot. We've added a lot with technology, the one-on-one program that went home. All of our increase in our budget is building in to increase that nest egg for that one-on-one to continue to happen. So it is going for education and stuff within our school district that is needed to help the children get a better education than what they had prior year.
Yes, and if I can just add to that one-on-one put us in the position that we were able to do what we have done this year with the online learning, and thanks to us, because many school districts, even in our own area, did not have that going for them. So it did go for good cause. Yes. Eric, is there anything else?
No, that's all related to the taxes. Just Mrs. Van Norman also said congratulations to Madison earlier as well. I was going to wait till the end, but we'll throw that in there right away too. That was the only thing about the budget. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Well, I think I'm hoping we answered that, maybe not to the best that the person wanted to hear, but I think we have definitely addressed it to the best interest of our educational program. Okay. Mr. Dessler has his comment up under the chat. If you can look at the chat, if you want, we can read it also.
Sure, I can read that out, Mr. Fedorcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Dissler has commented that he is in favor and consideration of all 4 of the topics on the current slide shown. He's concerned, however, on what our financial situation will be in the next 2 years. I agree to refinance and lean toward a 3% tax increase.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dissler. Okay, back to any other questions or comments before we kind of finalize where we might be going here?
Mr. Fedorcha, I'm sorry, I think Mrs. Culp's going to comment on something.
Mr. Fedorcha, I agree with all 4 of the items listed on the slide there.
Okay. Mr. Link?
Sure, thank you. I'm hearing consensus on all 4, knowing that the first 3 will help us make the final decision on the 4th one. I propose that we put those 3 positions or build our budget with the first 3 considerations in them for the agenda for June 22nd, and then we can draw up the resolution for the tax increase and actually leave the percentage blank going into the meeting, and then a board member can make a motion for a certain percentage, which can be discussed at that meeting.
I would suggest that myself, and I thank you for that. I see Mr. Green. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gary. I didn't mean to step on you, but it would be my understanding, and I look to Matt or Sherry. So we put all this stuff together. We put the refi, removing the positions and all that other stuff that we talked about. We get the Brandywine renegotiation. So what it's going to come down to is if we have a hypothetically 3.5% increase in taxes, then we will take X number of dollars out of the fund balance to balance the budget. If, on the other hand, we have a 2% increase, we won't generate quite as much revenue, so we will take slightly more out of the fund balance, and that's how the whole thing's going to balance out. It's not going to allow us to have any more programs. It's not going to reduce any programs. It's not going to do anything other than, instead of tax revenue, the money would come from fund balance. Is that a correct statement, ladies?
That is correct, Mr. Green.
Yes, the only thing I would add to that, Mr. Green, is that if you were to go to 3.5%, the revenue generated would actually be more than the current shortfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Which, so I guess you know that Matt's not in favor of 3.5% increase.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Green. Anyone else that have a comment? I know Mr. Dissler had a comment on the 3%, which we can address on the 22nd, if he so chooses to want to move that direction also, because at this point, what I'm hearing is that the business office will put together for the 22nd a budget which includes all four of those items, with one exception is not having a figure in the tax increase. Am I correct, Sherry?
That is correct.
Is that acceptable to the board? Anybody against it, please say now. Okay, then I will direct the business office to do that, to leave that consideration for the tax increase open. That will leave it up to all of us to look at what we would think to be comfortable with, and then we would be able to discuss that part of it on the 22nd, but everything else will be put in place. Along with that, we need to now, if we are all in agreement, and I'm hearing we are, that we are going to do the refinancing. Sherry, you will need to take that and inform them of that and have everything put together and prepare for that so that we can ratify that.
Yes, that would be on the June 22nd board meeting as a resolution to refinance those bonds. That is correct.
Okay. Again, last time for any questions or comments. Mr.
Just
Green.
one more quick comment, and I think it probably should be you, Gary, as board president, but if you remember when we had the bond council on, they talked about an inadvertent spike in interest rates, which could throw this whole thing into kind of a dilemma. And,
Right.
and we talked about a drop dead date, and someone, I think, from our district should be kind of cognizant of that, overseeing that, and I think the board should give, and I don't know if that's you or Sherry or Matt or whoever, the opportunity to say, whoa, and pull the plug if for any reason interest rates go crazy and suddenly that extra million that we're paying becomes 2 or 3 million, because then I wouldn't be in favor of refinancing either. And
I
I'm not
agree
not
with
sure
that,
the
Matt,
mechanism
and
of that, but I think it needs to be explored.
I agree. And I would like to appoint Sherry basically as our go-to person, since she has been working with it. She knows the facts, she knows the figures, she knows everything, and working along with Mr. Link, so that we are in that position that you're saying, Matt, if we should get into that position, that we know, and that either Matt or Sherry keep the board apprised of that prior to the 22nd. But I do think Sherry would be the prime person to do that, Matt, because she is there, she is talking with them, and she is in communication with them.
I'm perfectly comfortable with that, Gary. Maybe you can just do that by decree. Maybe you just did that by decree, and we don't have to go through a vote on it, and everybody will be happy. I don't think anyone would object to that, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay, thank you. So be it then. Sherry, you will be our point person working along with Mr. Link, but we are asking you to make sure that you go through me and then the rest of the board as far as any conflicts that should arise, that we're prepared to make the proper decision.
Okay,
We're entrusting in you.
no problem. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any comments on the budget for tonight? Any questions you may have through the week, please contact Sherry or Matt or even myself. And so we have some direction, and also now start to think definitely about where we would be with a tax increase. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I guess we can move on, or is there any objection to moving on? Okay. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to the superintendent's report. And before he does that, I just want to make an announcement so that it can be put on our website in agreement with the state law, that we of the Northern Lehigh School Board needs to evaluate our superintendent. The school board has done that, and they have deemed our superintendent to have met and exceed our expectations of him as our superintendent. I would address then, Eric, that would be put on our website to meet the law. Thank you. Mr. Link, you're up.
Let me begin by saying thank you, Mr. Fedorcha, and to the entire school board for that feedback. It's deeply appreciated. I would like to share out because it passed like no other year has passed before, but our school year ended on June last Friday for our students. So that was the official last school day for our students. And today was the official last day for our staff, and it ended in our second online professional development day. And I sat in on at least one session this morning, and it's amazing how engaged our staff were, learning how to better prepare for next school year if we're still in this type of teaching and learning environment. Additionally, I would like to say a few words about Madison. Madison shared just the tip of the iceberg with you about what she has accomplished in her time here in Northern Lee High School District. I would like to highlight that a little bit more. First, yes, Madison, you did comment that I am a fan of DeSales University. So you're going from a bulldog to be a bulldog at the college level, at the university level. So congratulations on that. I do want to point out, though, however, when I attended there a long time ago, it was Allentown College of St. Francis de Sales. And believe it or not, they were the Centaurs back then. So a lot has changed since I graduated. They probably have about half a dozen additional buildings that were not there when I attended there. So congratulations. I hope you have as great of an experience as I did when I attended DeSales. Madison Hoffman was appointed as the student board representative at the September 10th, 2018 school board meeting. Students selected to the board representative have distinguished themselves in academics, the community, service, and leadership. Madison is clearly no exception. During her student career at Northern Lehigh High School, Madison has taken several dual enrollment and honors courses where she thrived academically. Madison also served as the captain of the All-Pro team. So those are all of our students that achieved either proficient or advanced on the Keystones and PSSA assessments. She was the captain. Madison, her creativity and leadership shines through not only in the classroom, but also in the music and the arts. She spent 4 years in the marching band and was section leader and an officer in 10th through 12th grades. She also served for 4 years in a concert band, jazz band, concert choir, percussion ensemble, and the women's choir. Madison has served in the Northern Lehigh Theater Troupe as the production assistant in 10th grade, production manager in grades 11 and 12, and stage manager this past year, where I'm told by the musical director, Mrs. Collette, that she truly learned how to use her boss voice. Congratulations on that achievement. Madison has earned a full ride scholarship to DeSales University, where she plans to enter the TV and film production program. She will focus her higher learning career and pursuits in editing and stage management. On behalf of the Board of Education and the school district, please accept the gift we have presented to you as a token of our appreciation for serving as a student representative for the Northern Lehigh School District and entire community. Best wishes to you, and good luck in your future endeavors, Madison. Madison, I have truly loved getting to know you over the past few years, and I'm really proud of everything you have accomplished. I wish you nothing but the best at DeSales University. I'll turn it over to you, and I don't know if you would like to share. Madison and I got together last week, and we had a great exchange, and I'm going to turn it over to Madison now.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I did get a chance to get it working and put a picture in. I don't know if you can see that. But the clock works. And it's very, very nice. And I words can't describe how I'm feeling right now, other than the gigantic smile on my face. And I thank you all.
Thank you, Madison. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madison, on behalf of the board.
Madison, I want you to know that my wife and I go to the Shakespeare Festival at DeSales, and we go to some of the other plays down there. So if you see me, kind of give me a good seat, move me up front, okay? So I hope to see you doing that. It's a great school for what you want to do. Yeah, good luck in the future. Good luck.
Thank you.
Additionally, Mr. Fedorcha, I would like to recognize some of our community partners and individuals for the support that they have given, in particular to our entire class of 2020 recently. The most updated list of donors includes the Education Foundation, who has been very supportive of our need for additional technology to support online learning. Most recently, they gave a donation of $4,500 for additional hotspots, and they continue to donate towards our grab and go meal program. So we're truly blessed to have such an active and involved foundation. Additionally, Tri-County Teamwear kind of led the charge for the senior yard signs, along with along with the Diamond Fire Company and Diamond Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary, and also with Balliettsville Auto Service. They all donated generously to support our seniors with the gift bag and the yard signs and the banners that are out by the field hockey fence. Above that also is Mr. and Mrs. James Onchek, who organized the banners that I'm sure you have seen on Main Street when you're coming down the bridge towards Center, or when you're coming from the intersection near McDonald's and Giant in Walnutport. Congratulating all of our seniors' names are listed on those banners. And the Giant food stores in Walnutport, again, recently gave us a $1,300 donation towards our grab and go meal program. So again, another business community partner that's very supportive of what we're doing for our students here. Very fortunate, just to have relationships like that with individuals and businesses within our community. Finally, I'd like to give a reminder that the graduation ceremony is planned for July 24th. If we are able to do so safely, it may be in person in the stadium. We would have to put some limitations on the number of attendees and what the physical arrangement of the stadium looks like, but we have not yet ruled that option out. We also have planned a virtual online graduation, and we're currently building that content right now. Either way, it looks like we're going to do a parade of seniors to celebrate our seniors down Main Street from Slatington out through Walnutport and back up here to the main campus on Bulldog Lane for the distribution of diplomas. If we are able to do a in-person graduation, we would still like to be able to have a parade to celebrate our seniors. They certainly deserve it. And our school police officer and school safety and security coordinator, Officer Naus, has been working diligently with Mrs. France in the business office to get the necessary insurance for that, along with the Walnut Borough, Slatington Borough, and Washington Township councils to get the necessary permits to have the parade. The entire application will be going to PennDOT for approval on Wednesday. So we're making great strides in all of those areas there. And Mr. Fedorcha, that concludes my report for this evening. You're muted, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Link. One of the things maybe we can highlight also is that with all this happening, we have an employee who is going to be on leave from us, and he is going to be serving in the National Guards again for us. And we need to make sure that he has our prayers and our blessing with him in his endeavor, and we'll welcome him back hopefully soon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fedorcha, for mentioning that. Kyle Kramer from our Information and Technology Department has been deployed. He is an officer in the Pennsylvania Guard, and I did hear from him 2 nights ago. He is well. He misses being here, but he also knows he has an important job to do there as well. So he sends his gratitude for everybody's well wishes from back here in the district.
Absolutely. Okay. Moving on then, we did hold an executive session at 6 o'clock for personnel reasons. Now we'll move into personnel, and I will accept a motion to approve the personnel items A through J.
Mr. Storcha, it's Donna Culp. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Bob Kern, second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to policy. I will accept a motion to approve the policy items A through D. Do I have a motion to do so?
This is Mrs. Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second?
It's just Robin Dissel. I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
That didn't
He's
work.
saying
Yes.
yes.
Hit it again.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I do not see anything under conferences. Is there anything to be added? Okay. Moving on to curriculum. I will accept a motion to approve the curriculum items A through H. Do I have a motion to approve?
Matt Green so moves.
Do I have a second?
Bob Kern, second.
Michelle Mart.
Sorry, Michelle.
Jinx.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any old business? Any old business? New business. I will accept a motion to approve the new business items A through C. Do I have a motion?
Robin Dissler, yes.
Do I have a second?
Matt Green seconds.
Any questions? Okay, moving on for a roll call vote.
Mr. Disler,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to financial, I will accept a motion to approve A through L. We have withdrawn M. A through L. Do I have a motion to do so?
Bob Kern, so moved.
Do I have a
Donna Culp,
second?
second.
Do I have a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Donna Culp, second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Heckman,
Yes.
Ms. Husak, yes. Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Culp,
Yes.
Ms. Martineau,
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. I need a motion now for the legal part, A and B. Do I have a motion to approve the legal?
Robin Dissler, yes.
Do I have a second?
Sure. Matt Green seconds. Yeah.
Next. Thank you, Matt. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Disler?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman? Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Ms. Husak? Yes. Mr. Keegan?
Yes.
Mr. Kern?
Yes.
Ms. Culp?
Yes.
Ms. Martineau?
Yes.
Mr. Fedorcha?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Mrs. Huzek, is there any correspondence?
No.
Okay. Information, you do have the minutes of the Corbin Lehigh Intermediate Unit, the LTRI-C, and the Lehigh LCTI. I will now go back to Mr. Hill. Recognition of guests. Is there any other one or any other comments? Mr. Hill.
Yes, we do have a few public comments. First, regarding the tax question, Myra A. Said thank you for answering the question, and also said I would like to see tangible improvements. I'd like to see new offerings and all improvements. And also said, I think it means expense payments and cost of living expenses are harder to see to taxpayers. So that was just a comment after you answered the questions.
And thank you for that comment.
And then we had Mrs. Van Norman in regards to Mr. Link's review, said, "We adore our superintendent. Thank you and congratulations."
Thank you, Mrs. Van Norman.
And we have one more comment, and this is from Mrs. Crucial. Mrs. Crucial's comment is, "Madison is a wonderful young woman who has a very bright future. She has been an absolute pleasure to work with. And I can't wait to see all she accomplishes. Congratulations, Madison."
Thank you for that, Mrs. Crucial, I guess.
Yes, that was from Mrs. Crucial.
Okay,
So that's all the comments we have.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again, Ms. Hoffman. What I do want to also say before I do ask for adjournment is I want to make sure that everyone is aware, and I want to thank all of our teachers who this week or even last week and this week have gone out and probably touched every one of their children with a special goodbye of some sort. And they up and went on beyond their duties to do that. And I am so proud of our district. I can't tell you how proud I really am. Anyone else has any other comments before I ask for an adjournment?
I have a point of order, Mr. Fedorcha.
Sure.
I think you need to talk to our secretary and point out to her that it's common practice when you vote that you alternate the vote and the same person doesn't vote first all the time and continue through that. The vote should be alternate. For example, Mr. Disler votes first, then Mr. Green votes first, etc., etc., etc. I'm just pointing that out as a point of order.
I think she heard that, and I'm sure that's the way we're going to rotate votes from now on. Right, Ms. Zuzak?
You got it.
Just busting you. I haven't busted you for a while, so that's
okay.
all.
With that in mind, I'm going to
ask.
I'll
remember that.
I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mrs. Martineau, so moved.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Okay. And in order to keep that up, Ms. Huzak, I will vote first. Yes.
We don't need a motion this time, or a roll call this time, Mr. Fedorcha.
It does say roll call on my paper here.
Well, I can do a roll call for you.
No, that's okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting tonight. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well, and keep in touch up on the budget with us if there's any questions or comments. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.